Hi there. With Christmas rapidly approaching, I thought I'd do something a bit different today. I'll show you how to make these gorgeous earrings, perfect for gifts or the party season. Then take you through how to adapt the design to make a beautiful bauble for your tree. To make these, the materials you'll need are for the earrings 0.6mm thick copper sheet and then 0.8mm and 0.4mm diameter copper wire. And for the bauble, 0.6mm thick copper sheet, but then 1mm and 0.4mm diameter copper wire. And the tools you need are a permanent pen and ruler, a jeweler's saw and bench peg, a drill or hole punch, filing and polishing tools, wire cutters, round nose or bail making pliers, flat nose pliers, and then optionally metal punches, a hammer and block and liver of sulphur. Now I've already cut the strips of sheet that I need for each earring, and each one measures 6 cm by 1 cm. I've marked a dot right in the centre, which will be a hole, and lines about 3mm away from that towards the edge, which are going to be sawn. And that's the first job. So using the saw and bench peg, just going to carefully saw along those long lines. Just brush away the filings to make sure you know where the end is, and then flip it around and do the other side. I then want to drill the hole in the centre, so first I'm going to make a dent with the centre punch, just hammer that to help as a guide, and then I'm taking a 1mm diameter drill bit just to drill that hole through. That will take the 0.8mm wire quite comfortably. Then I'm just going to separate those two legs and file the cut edges. This gives me a chance to remove any burrs and also straighten up if the cut line wasn't particularly straight. And I'll just round the edges at the ends, the corners at the ends as well. You'll notice at this point that I've marked on some more dots at the ends for holes in each of those legs. So once again, just going to use the centre punch to make a dent, and then drill one hole in each corner. I waited to put these on just so I can make sure that they were central once I've made the cut line. Now I am only showing one of the earrings being done, but as you'll see, I'm also doing the other sheet for the other earring, and it's worth at each stage just matching them up against each other and making sure they're about even. So we're now ready to start shaping, and I'm just going to slightly pull up the top left and the bottom right so I can remember which ones I'm shaping where, and then I'll pop in the bail making pliers on their largest round, which is about 10mm diameter, and pull those two legs around the pliers. I can then flip the piece around, take the pliers in again and bend the other two legs in the opposite direction. You can then pinch the ends together and try to make sure that they're crossing over so that one piece of wire will be able to go through the holes in both of those legs. And at this point you can check the shape. And if you find that there's one of the curves that's not quite right, it's a little bit square, then you can take the pliers in again and just keep manipulating until you've got the shape that you are happy with. I'm looking for all of those curves to be fairly even, both left and right and top and bottom, just so the whole thing looks symmetrical. So I've taken my time to get the shape that I want, and I've also shaped the other earring in the same manner but a mirror image. And the final thing to do is to just check them with each other to make sure they're about the same shape. And we're ready to start the wire work. Now I've cleaned up my formed sheets before starting the wire work, as it's a bit easier to do at this stage. And out of the 0.8mm wire, I've cut one length of 20 centimetres and two lengths of 15 centimetres. These will be a lot longer than I need, but it will give me a little bit more wriggle room if I want to change the design, or I can use the cut-offs for findings anyway. So the longest piece of wire is going to be the one that goes through the hole that we made in the centre of the sheet. And then I'm going to have one of the shorter lengths of wire meeting that at that centre point and basically sort of kicking back up again, so curving back up again. And then these two wires will curve round to meet the top of the sheet form. But I want to weave these two pieces of 0.8 together with the 0.4mm wire, and it's going to be quite fiddly to do in situ, so I'm going to start the weave away from the main piece. So to start the weave, I'm just going to take the 0.4mm wire twice around the longest wire. Then I want to bring in that other wire, and holding it at a bit of an angle, I'm going to take the 0.4 through the centre of the two wires and then round the shorter wire once. At this stage I'm just trying to anchor the two together, so I'll then go round the longer wire twice and then around the shorter wire twice. And each time I cross over to the other wire, I'm bringing that weaving wire through the centre of those two frame wires. I'm not just going round them. And once we're back over to that long wire, we're ready to start the weave proper. So I'm going to go around that wire 5 times. And then over to the outer wire and around that twice. You could of course use whatever weave you want for this, but this one's particularly forgiving. You can weave it straight and then it will curve round quite nicely without leaving any noticeable gaps, because there are already gaps in the weave. Now once you've opened that gap out between the two frame wires, to a size that you're comfortable with. You can then straighten them up so they're running parallel, and that'll ensure that the gap stays the same for the rest of the weave. Just try to make those wires as straight as possible, and then you can carry on with the weave. And every now and again you can just check your weaving up against the sheet form, just so you can tell when you've done enough weaving you're getting towards the top. And once you have gotten towards the top, within a few millimetres, because you're wanting to curve it around, you can then put that long wire back through the hole and start manipulating that shape that you're wanting to get, so curving those wires around to where they'll eventually be. So you can just manipulate that weave into the curve that you want, and I want to cross over the outer wire so it's in front of the inside wire, and just make sure that's all shaped quite nicely. And then I want to thread what was the outside wire through the holes in the top of the sheet. This might be fairly tight, so your pliers, flat nose pliers, will help with this, but just ease it through gently. Don't pull it too quickly through. Make any adjustments you need to that curve, and then finish the weave off in that little gap. Then you can start to decide what you're going to do with the wire ends. The wire that hasn't gone through the hole, I think I'm going to take around, and this is a good time to do this stage for the other earring, and then check the two against each other. Now I'm going to move on to do the weave on the bottom part of the earring, and again we'd find it quite fiddly to do it in situ, but obviously we can't take the wires out completely now. But what we can do is weave it a little way up the wire that's in place. So taking your 0.4 weaving wire, just going to wrap around that wire twice again, take in the other wire, wrap it once around, and then back over to the held wire and weave exactly as before. And then once you've done the same number of weaves that you've done previously, and you can count those outer pairs, you can slide that carefully down that centre wire, and then you're ready to shape that in the same way as you'd done on the top half. Now we've completed the weaving, we just need to decide what to do with all of the ends. The top wire that went through the hole, I know I want to make a small loop on it, and that will be what I'm using to hang the earring from. The other main wire up at the top there, I think I'm going to take around and then back under the weave. So I'm just going to carefully ease that around and then gently pull that through to the back of the earring. And again, you'll find your flat nose pliers are quite handy for this. just pull gently whilst holding firmly where it's looping around. And then I want to curve that wire around the outside of the weave, and then I'll attach it going through the weave, I think. So I can cut off the excess wire and then make a small loop in the end. And just ease that through the weave. And then once I've got that where I want it, I'll just cut the very end so it's flush. I can also cut off the end of the weaving wire at the centre there now. We've now got those wire ends in the centre to deal with. I think all I'm going to do with those is thread them through and around the base of the weave. I'm going to try and get it as low as possible so it's actually sitting on the centre of the sheet. And then I can cut that flush. For the top wire, I'm just going to bend it over the top of the earring, and then with my round nose pliers just make a small loop at the top and cut the excess off. And then for the bottom wire, I'm going to take that out to the side, round the front, and then around the outside of the coiled wire. I'll take it through to the back and then finish that off neatly. And that's the main part of the earring finished. And of course I've been making its partner earring stage by stage in the same way. To hang these, I'm just going to make a couple of basic ear hooks, and I'm using a couple of the cut-offs of the frame wire, so it's another lot of 0.8. So right at the very end I'm just going to make a very small loop and just kick it back so it's central. And then with my flat nose pliers, I just want to kick the rest of the wire forward from that loop. I'm then going to take my bail making pliers and using the 8mm round, just going to pop it in right at that loop and take the wire right the way round so it's almost touching the loop again. That makes the main part of the hook. And then a little way down from the end, just kick that wire out slightly. And I'm then just going to hammer all of that hook everywhere apart from the loop, just to strengthen the wire. And then the earrings are complete, apart from assembly, which I'll do after I've patinaed them. For the bauble, I've scaled up the sheet. I'm using a piece 14 centimetres by 3 centimetres, and I've left a 1 centimetre gap in the middle between the two cut lines. I'm also drilling 4 holes in the centre, so 4 wires will be going right the way through, and I'll have 4 lots of wire work rather than 2. I also decided to embellish the sheet a little bit, so I put 3 dots on each of the legs of the sheet. I've formed it to exactly the same shape as before. I've used permanent ink to bring out those dots that I made and polished it to a high shine before just giving it a little bit of a heat to redden up the colour a little. I also drilled 2 holes in each of the ends so I can have a wire passing in either direction. I'm going to do the main bit of weaving away from the sheet as before, but because those holes are a certain distance apart, I just need to start the weave on the frame just to make sure that I've got that distance. So just putting a few wraps on the centre wire, 2 wraps on the outside wire, and then we can bring all of that out, or when you're doing the second half, up from that main sheet to continue the wire. And the wrap that I'm doing on here is 2 wraps on the outside wire as before, but 9 wraps on the inside wire. Now I've completed all 4 parts of the wire wrapping, and I've put the outside frame wires through those holes in the top. With the topmost 2 wires, I'm just going to make a loop in each of them, and this will be what I'm hanging the bauble from. I don't want to cut these off though, I'm going to use the length in the rest of the design. So just need to loop it around carefully and then do the other one in the same way. To secure those loops, I'm going to take the weaving wire and just coil it around those wires. I think I should probably use that as a design element anyway, so I'll coil a fair bit of those wires going down. And then I've got the decision to make about what I'm going to be doing with each of these wires. And you can let your imagination go wild here. So these outside wires, I think I'm going to take around the frame in a similar manner to before, and I'll leave those bare. These inside wires, which were the ones that came down from the top, just going to coil those a bit more. And then if I take that outside one and wrap it on that frame somewhere, the innermost one, I can take either side of that sheet. I think I'm going to go on the outside and then take it through, and then I can just coil it round to secure it in place. And once I've cut off the excess and just made sure that it's flat to the surface, I'm quite happy with that one. Now this outside wire I can hook through anywhere really. I think I'll take it through about centrally. Again, exactly the same way as I'd done on the earrings, just with a little bit of an extra on it. And then I'll take it down to the base, and I'm just going to wrap it around the base of that wire work on that side. I'm going to do all 4 sets of wires in a similar way. As you can see, I've made the bottom slightly different to the top, and you can add beads or ribbon or anything you like to embellish it further. You can let your imagination run riot with a Christmas bauble. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please press the like button below. Subscribe to my channel and head over to my website for more hints, tips and projects. And have a great festive season.